Achalo mumbi sukasa kishale yo kwe bisi. Ono kone kwa yo akuma smaka das music. All the gender to fix right with them see you. Vivian all the sex and one who first check you. Yo pass.
Good morning, good morning, Dominica, good morning, Dominica, bonjour, 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 tout le monde. À ceux qui ont communiqué aujourd'hui, c'est un grand plaisir pour la commission, mesdames, spécial bonjour pour tout le monde, à tout le monde. Est-ce que ça va? Est-ce que tout vite bien? Après ça, nous la messieurs, est-ce que tout vite bien? Okay, once again, just want to say good morning to you wherever you are listening to the big station Q95 FM. And the mission continues where we continue to educate the nation on several areas of our culture. And this time, mental health is one of those issues that we felt very important as a nation, and even our Creole Heartbeat organization felt it was very important to face this challenge. It's something that we must deal with. It's something that we must be cognizant of. And it is something we all, every single Dominican, needs to be on the same track with. As a matter of fact, quite a bit of activities have been going on in the mental health circle, and we will get abreast to that. And with us, it gives us the pleasure to welcome for the second round, and hopefully we may have a third round. And Dr. Nadia Wallace, consultant psychiatrist at the Acute Psychiatric Unit. Once again, it's a pleasure to have you. Good morning to you, Miss Wallace, Mrs. Nadia Wallace. What's your surname again?
Wallace.
Wallace. All right. Good morning to you, Nadia Wallace. How are you?
Good morning.
Dr.
Good
Nadia
morning,
Wallace.
Good morning. I'm doing very well, thank you. Good morning to you and the rest of the listening public. It's
Yes.
a pleasure to be back here again today.
And I must say the feedbacks on the first program was tremendous. And it's something that we must face on as a nation. And I'm really happy that you, as the consultant psychiatric, willing to come and educate the nation, educate ourselves on what's taking place with us. But we also heard recently that a PAHO consultant, technical consultant, has been on the island to assist with the mental health policy. Can you bring us up to date with that?
Yes, this is exciting for us. It's exciting for me as a psychiatrist. And I think all Dominicans should be excited too. Yes, we do have a PAHO consultant here with us, and he is here to assist us in the mental health policy and legislation. He came in on Monday, so he's here actually for the entire week. And the purpose of his visit here this week is to meet various stakeholders and to listen to them, to hear their concerns, to hear what they would like to see in in the mental health policy, what changes they would like to talk about their challenges. And it's been going extremely well so far. Today is the last day of it, and this afternoon we will be having a debriefing of all the different stakeholders. So this is his first visit, and he will be back again in August. So the process continues. He's been doing this. He has a lot of experience in this, and in fact, he's been going through the Caribbean, helping them with the very same thing. And on this occasion, so it's happening by batches. And after from leaving Dominica, he'll be going to St. Lucia, where he can do the very same thing. So we're very excited, and it's a blessing to be in this batch, because had we not been in this, it would be maybe another year or two before this could happen. So yes, so this is exciting.
And what's his name? And
He's Dr.
give us
Sumitra.
his doctor.
Sumitra, he's a psychiatrist.
He's a psychiatrist.
Yes, he's from India.
And what are the feedbacks generally from his visit and some of the discussions that you have had? I know some of them may be delicate that you may not want to get into, but overall,
it's very positive. He's very pleased thus far with the interaction. He's very pleased with the excitement that people share and the changes that people want to see, and also just the fact that mental health is like buzzing right now. So just hearing everyone giving their views and enjoying that they can be part of this process. It's exceptional. So he's very happy thus far with the feedback.
And for us, it is exciting to know that he is here to assist us with the
Yes,
with the policy
and the Mental Health Act.
and the mental health act. Do we have a mental health act as we
We
speak?
do have a Mental Health Act, but it's from 1987. Yes, so
1987.
it's
So
a
it's
very long time ago. It was revised, so we really need to have a revised Mental Health Act right now
why is it so important to have that revised mental act?
because there's been changes. Mental health back then is not the same as mental health. It's not the same right now because there's so much more awareness, and we want to let persons know that mental health and mental illness is something that we should all embrace because it's part of us, it's part of our life, it's part of who we are, just like we have any other condition, we embrace it. And also back then, the treatment, because the Mental Health Act, it guides the process of treating persons with mental illness. And back then, much emphasis was not placed on human rights, for example. Back then, much emphasis was not placed on the freedom that persons with mental illness should enjoy. And the process was so stringent. So, with this new act, we hope that all these factors will be taken into consideration, and it will be a mental health act that treats persons with mental illness, but focusing on their rights, focusing on the dignity that they deserve when they are treated.
This is exciting news for us as a nation as we actually tackle the challenges of this very delicate aspect of our life in Dominica. And to continue, I wanted us to touch early on Alzheimer's and dementia because this is another delicate issue we have been plagued with.
Yes.
Quite a bit of incidents, quite a bit of our patients are now succumbing to those illnesses. What can you tell us about those?
So when we speak of dementia, we most even we speak of the elderly. And this is very important, especially now we're having so much abuse of persons, of the elderly persons. They are vulnerable, and a lot of times they are not treated well. They Dementia existed from way back then, but the change now, you might find persons might say that we're seeing more persons with dementia right now. But the reason is because we are living longer. We are living longer, so we are seeing the diseases of the elderly, and dementia is one of them. There are different types of dementia, but the two I think we will focus on is Alzheimer's dementia and vascular dementia. Okay, and it's quite common. We see it quite often, and I see a lot of elderly persons are brought to me with memory loss. So when someone has dementia, they will present with memory loss, so forgetfulness. They will have difficulty in managing their affairs. They will have difficulty in taking care of themselves. They may have difficulty in their language, difficulty in they have problems with their orientation, their concentration. Alzheimer's, if we have to look at both of them, Alzheimer's dementia, this one is more common than vascular dementia. And in this condition, it presents with language impairment and memory loss. And we have to understand, just in dementia, what happens is that the person has difficulty in forming new memory. Okay, so that's why we find that what we call the short-term memory, it's impaired, but the long-term things that happen way back, it's preserved. And that's from the onset. The reason being that because they cannot form new memory, they cannot store the information and then for them to retrieve it so that they can use it. So that's why somebody will place something there and they will forget.
Wow.
They will ask you a question over and over because they'll not remember that they ask you the same question. They may eat now and they may forget that they ate, and they may want to eat a second time. It's because that's a short-term memory. It has just happened, so it cannot be stored. Unlike the long-term memory where it happened. So the memory is already stored, so they can then retrieve that information and talk about it. So a lot of times persons will say they're speaking about things that happened way back then,
Yeah.
about persons who died, or things I don't even know, and
Yeah.
why that happened. But that's what they're speaking about, and the reason is just that they can use that memory and they speak about it. Now, persons with dementia also may suffer from depression.
Wow.
They may suffer from depression, and understandably so. A lot of times persons with dementia, they have other medical conditions that can predispose them to suffering from depression, things like high blood pressure, things like diabetes, because a lot of persons with these conditions, they do suffer with depression.
Wow.
So that's also is no different with the elderly. And then you have the abuse by relatives, by family, by friends. You the person, sometimes they feel like they're a burden to their family. They feel that it's not worth living, and sometimes they're isolated. They are not treated with respect. They are not cared for, and all this contributes to them becoming depressed. So it's quite common also. Depression is quite common, and later down, persons may also have perceptual disturbances where they may start hallucinating. They may talk about things that they see in the house, and they may be fearful of staying alone because they will see someone in the house, or sometimes they have delusions where they believe persons are coming after their family and or coming after them, and they would close all the windows and not open anywhere, and be fearful. So we also see that in dementia. Now, vascular dementia, on the other hand, it's less common, but it's just as important. That this type of dementia you see in persons who have the same risk factors like the cardiovascular disease. So persons who have high blood pressure, persons who have diabetes, who have hypercholesterolemia, persons who are obese, persons who smoke, these persons are more prone to suffer from vascular dementia. Okay, in terms of how you differentiate one from the other, in Alzheimer's dementia, you find the impairment, the memory impairment, it's gradual and it's constant, as opposed to vascular dementia. We refer to it as being stepwise, meaning when if someone suffers a stroke or a transient ischemic attack, then you will find that the memory loss it worsens. But once they have stabilized, once yes, the memory loss worsens, but once they're stabilized, the memory loss will also be stabilized. When they have another insult, they'll have another impairment in the memory loss. So you'll start having it refers to as being stepwise decline, where there's a plateau when it's well. When they have an insult, it drops again, it plateaus again when it's well. So this is how you have the step. So that's why you have a stepwise. You refer to the decline as being stepwise. Now, when it comes to dementia, there is no treatment thus far for dementia. The treatment that exists is really to slow down the rate of the memory loss, but not to treat it, not to stop it, not to prevent it. Right? It just slows down the rate of the memory loss. Now, in treating persons with dementia, it's not we as a family, we can also help. You have to recognize that the person, it's not their fault, because a lot of times persons say wicked, they know what they're doing. So how comes they remember everything now, and you're asking and they're pretending that they're not remembering it right now. So you have people saying this. Also, it's important to recognize. So if you're aware that this is what it is, the treatment of the person will be better. So things like ensuring that they remain in familiar environment, because if you take them to a strange place, they have to try to remember, they cannot form new memories, right? So they will have more confusion in a strange place. So it's better to have them nurse in an environment that they're familiar with, that they already have the memory. So no, going to the bathroom, they will not have to think because they're already conditioned to know, they know where it is. And being with this familiar persons, that also is important, because you take them out of their home and you bring them with strangers who they don't know, and it's difficult for them to know who to learn who the people are. So the confusion just worsens even more. And things like, so we have to take certain safety measures. like ensuring that the lock on the door, it's one that is secure or one they cannot reach, because they may open there and they may wander and not be able to find their way back home, and they may get lost. That can happen also. Keep them away from the stove, keep them away from from the kitchen, because guess what? They may open the cylinder and not realize that they open it, and then try to light it. And then you could have so that could happen. Also, even in keeping drinks, they may mistake something that they should not drink for something that they should drink. So you should have things like that. You should keep them away from them, and it's always important to have like little signs that could keep them oriented. You could have like photos of the family members up in the house. You could like signs as to what is there, so they can read the signs and they can be better oriented. So all those little measures. Another thing, when you're speaking to them, even if they say that is this, just agree with it instead of challenging them, because they're going to get agitated and it's going to be a confrontation. Yeah.
Why do some of them, and I've heard several cases, they don't remember that they may even have to shower? And I mean, I guess shower was possibly normally part of their routine, but it gets that bad at times when they even forget
Yes.
the 24-hour day and may need a shower.
Right. So that happens as a person, as it progresses. Notice it doesn't happen in the initial phase. Okay. And remember, they unable to form new memories, so they may forget that they did not bathe. And that is one. So
But
you're
sometimes they are
absolutely
even stubborn to actually take the
that
bath.
that too. Again, they just don't feel like doing anything. They just want to stay in, if they feel comfortable in a particular city area where they are, and that's what they want. And they will tell you, I bathe already. Sometimes even not realizing that they bathe, but they'd say, yes, I bathe, because they remember they bathe, but to orient themselves as to when they did, they will not be able to do that. It's same like feeding. They'll tell you, I ate already, thinking, but they ate since yesterday, but they will say they already ate. Or sometimes they'll say they didn't because they forgot they already ate. So you can't go both ways.
Is it a situation that you can get some normalcy in your memory at sometimes, and then sometimes they may be disoriented, so they may be saying things that from their past, or some things, hallucination sort of traits, and there may be times that they may get to some level of normalcy at some days, or maybe sometimes their mood, that sort of thing.
So during the day, you might see more of the lucidity. They may be more oriented. But as it gets later, they will have the confusion, and that is referred to as sundowning. So in the evenings, they get a bit more confused. But sometimes they'll be able to speak to you, and especially events of the past, because of that long-term memory that is still preserved. They'll be able to talk about those things like they are happening right now.
Are we equipped to deal with this disease on a professional level? Like with
We
like
we
I've
are
in several
we
centers, places.
To an extent, yes and no. The most important thing is the awareness to recognize that the person has dementia, they have cognitive deterioration. It is, and secondly, it is not their fault. If you recognize that, the way that you treat them, the way you communicate to them will be different. So that it starts there. When it comes to, we have a few elderly homes that
Are
in
trained?
Dominica, yes, and but
Are they
I think
adequately
we could.
trained?
I
Or is
can't
there,
I
let's
can't I
say,
can't
a
speak
health service control to gauge the level of training?
so I can't speak to the level of training, but I can say that most of the elderly homes, they have doctors. They have
Okay,
doctors
that are
attached to,
trained.
yes, attached to them. And when if they can't, of course the patients are referred also for further treatment when necessary. What I think would help a lot though is if we had a home in Dominica where the patients, they could stay during the day
Yeah.
and socialize with other persons, other elderly persons, to occupy their time, productively, where they don't feel alone, they don't feel isolated and lonely, and then to take them, in the evening to return to their homes with their family.
Now,
That
why one of the first traits, or the first things we think of doing is to take to the psychiatric unit, take the persons to the psychiatric unit.
I haven't been seeing much of that as the first. When persons take the elderly to the psychiatric unit is when they have perceptual disturbances and when they have delusions. That's later down, but on from the onset
No.
they're okay. You don't see much of that. You may have from the onset you may have more of the mood changes like the depression, but family members they normally deal with that. It's when they start getting agitated or they start reacting because of the perceptual disturbances like the hallucinations and the delusions. They refuse to go in their room, they refuse to stay somewhere because of the fear that they feel. That's when they will come to me so that I could manage them.
Okay. Doctor, as we move on, there's that stigma, discrimination, and violation of human rights associated with mental health.
Yes,
And this is real.
it's so real. It is so real. It is.
Bring us
It is
up to
sad. It
step
is sad. It is sad.
to what's it like in Dominica. Let's take it from a Dominican standpoint.
So when we speak of the stigma, what we refer to is our attitude. When we speak of discrimination, we refer to the behavior as a result of the attitude. Now, if you have negative attitude towards person with mental health, it will be reflected in what you say, it will be reflected in what you do. And I mean, this is tied closely with the human rights. If we recognize that we all have rights, we have human rights, meaning it's universal, it's inherent by virtue of being a person. These rights you should have them, and it should not discriminate at all. So right to freedom, right to care, right to expression, right to liberty, right to security, right to healthcare. Everyone should have those rights, including persons who are marginalized in person, so everyone, the elderly. And if we value those rights and we uphold them, I think the stigma, which is a negative attitude, it will be much less. Okay. Another reason why persons have this stigma or this negative attitude is because their lack of awareness, their lack of knowledge of mental illness. And if we go way back, illness has always been something that is feared. It's always been something that is seen as mystical, is like magical, not understanding what it is. And it has over the years it has been scary. And I think that has contributed significantly to the attitude that persons have. They don't want to be associated with it at all because they believe being associated with a mental illness is going to be embarrassing. It's going to bring shame to them. It's going to bring shame to their family. And but we need to move away from this, Wadix, and recognize that mental illness is more than just that. It's more than the person who's acting abnormally. It's more than the person who speaks irrationally. It's much more than that. As I always say, we have almost 400, it's over 300, almost 400 conditions that fall under this umbrella that we refer to as mental illness. Yet we focus only on those that have the disturbances in behavior, the disturbances in speech. And these group is only 1% of that umbrella of mental illnesses. It's so vast. We have things like eating disorders. We have things like sleep disorders. We have things like sexual disorders. We have the mood disorders, depressive disorders, childhood disorders, and the list goes on. There are about 20 group of these conditions. And
And each of them,
each of
I mean, so I mean, each of these that I am really learning here, each of these conditions can lead to mental health.
So each of these conditions, they fall under the group. So I always say, think of mental illness as a tree,
Yeah.
right? And all the branches on that tree are the different conditions that you could have under this tree called mental illness. So that tree is there, and you have 20 branches. That's a 20 groups. And within each those groups, you have about 5 or 6 or 7 conditions under that group.
Which are the lives.
Yes. So you have, for example, let's say one of the branches is called anxiety disorders, and you have about 6 or 7 conditions that fall under that group called anxiety disorder. So together we have over 300 of those conditions that make up mental illness. And so we all, if we look under this tree, we will see a range of the conditions there that we all have. All of us have it. But we only, as I said, we only focus on this one group, the psychotic disorders that make only 1% of the mental illnesses that fall under that tree. And again, the reason we focus on it is because of the behavioral problems, the behavioral changes that we see that affect us. But if we're able to just forget about that little group for a while because it's so minimal, and we focus on all the other conditions that make up that tree called mental illness, we will see that our attitude will change, recognizing that we can have any of those in those branches at any time. It does not discriminate, it does not stigmatize. So we need to recognize that. And if we recognize it, we'll see that, all of us, this can happen to every one of us. And not only that, it can be managed. They can be managed, they can be treated, and for you to live a normal life. What is persons who have high blood pressure, for example, they may have a relapse and their pressure will be elevated that they cannot function. Then you treat it, the pressure gets under control, and then they can work again. So it's not any different with mental illness. So you have an acute episode, you have a relapse, it's treated, and then you can function, you'll go back to normalcy. So we need to recognize that. And if we do, I think we will have a different attitude and different behavior towards it.
The stigma is that bad that once you have an episode, whether it's 5, 10 years ago, our society seem to still feel that you are in that bracket of being, ill. Even if you function in normal, but they still feel that at any time because of that one episode, even if you're taking your medication, even if you're doing what you're normally supposed to do, but there's always that stigma over that person's head. And that person is mad, you can't remember, you can, that sort of thing. And we are not sensitive enough to understand it is like several other diseases that you may get an episode and you may be able, not totally heal, but be able to handle your daily life, managed, that is the word, and function and function properly. Depression is so very common in Dominica, and we touched on it the last time, especially in dealing with some of the suicides that we have been dealing with and facing with. But depression is so common, Doc.
So what if I actually look at some the information from WHO on depression? And I'm just going to say it right now.
Yeah.
Where 50% of patients, first of all, depression is much more common in women than it is in men. Okay? And we have 700,000 persons who suffer with depression. They die by suicide.
700,000.
Yes. And that is yearly.
Wow.
Also, it is the 4th leading cause of death in persons aged 15 to 29.
Wow, that's the youth. That's the reproductive sector of our society.
Yes. And we have to remember too that because depression, I can't say how important how important this is, because, and especially recently, as I said, we mentioned that before, depression and anxiety disorder, they are much more prevalent. In fact, they are the most prevalent mental illnesses right now. And that happened since we, in our Dominican setting, from Tropical Storm Erica in 2015, Hurricane Maria in 2017. Then we had COVID, we had the pandemic. And after the pandemic, we had, I mean, depression and anxiety, they increased significantly. So there are so many people who suffer from depression, and we need to pay attention to this. We need to pay attention to this because our children, our family, our friends, our co-workers, our doctors, our attorneys, our pastors, every one of us can suffer from depression. So we need to be, it's important that we pay attention to this and we make it our duty to try to understand and learn the symptoms, the signs and symptoms of depression. So when we identify them, we can take the person to get help before it's too late. Okay, so when focusing on depression, the person will may you'll find the symptoms. A lot of times, persons say, "I feel depressed," but when you ask, "What do you mean? What do you mean by depressed?" They'll say, "I've been feeling sad." But feeling sad is not being depressed. There's a difference. Sadness is a normal emotion that every one of us experience based on the situation. But depression, however, is a pathological sadness. It is intense. It lasts for at least 2 weeks. But it's this deep sadness, this deep sense of gloom and doom where you may be tearful, you just cry easily. You wonder, why am I feeling so sad and feeling so, I'm crying is it so easily. Feel the persons may have a sense of hopelessness, deep sense of hopelessness, of helplessness, feeling very worthless, having guilt feelings and asking guilt feelings. They don't even know why, but they feel so guilty. They will lose interest in things that they enjoyed doing before, and that's referred to as anhedonia. The energy level, it's like it's depleted. They will feel a sense of fatigue. They have very low motivation. They, no, very little desire to do anything. They worry excessively. For the slightest thing, they will be worried, and they will look, you'll have everything happening around them that's beautiful and wonderful, and then this one thing that has a little problem, and that's what they will focus on, and they will be worrying about it, and they'll see everything as being so negative. So they have a lot of negative feelings about themselves, about the environment. They may become withdrawn, not socialized like they used to, and stay by themselves and keep themselves in a dark enclosed space. They don't want to see the light. They don't want to see anything. They don't want to hear anything. They don't even want to take care of their basic needs and their hygiene. They have no interest in that. They lose appetite. They will have the problem sleeping. It is, you can see the change. And the biggest part now, when it's pathological, they may actually have the suicidal ideas and tendencies and plans. And imagine suicide, depression can be very, it's painful. So imagine the person, they rather not be alive than experience the symptoms of depression. That's how painful it is. So I would have persons say to me, "Doc, I feel like I'm in a deep black hole and I'm trying to get out. And as I'm trying, no matter how much I try, I just keep going back down. And I feel like I'm being pressed. I'm suppressed." And that's what persons say. So this thing is serious. It is real. It is real. And we really need to look or try to make it our duty, our responsibility to learn and understand the signs and the symptoms of depression. So whenever we identify them, we can take action before it's too late.
Are we educated enough about the signs and symptoms? And if not, how can we further go down to the cracks and crevices to the ordinary person in the various communities around Dominica? Because it's a general societal ill, and not everyone may be listening to us at this point in time. But then there may be someone in some community going through some turmoil, like you just mentioned. How can we get this information evangelized in every area of our society to at least try to arrest the prevalence of this ill or mental health?
So what if we have programs like this, and as you say, a lot of times person don't hear them. Every opportunity that I get, I will take part in them. But at those times, persons at work, they may not be able to tune into the radio. The children normally at school, they cannot tune into the radio. So you see that phone that we have all the time. I
Yeah.
think this would be a medium that we could use, and if we could partner, for example, with the digital or flow the telephone companies, just as they have those messages.
Yeah.
If that might be a way that we could disseminate information because everybody has a telephone.
Yeah.
That's one way. Also going to the schools. I've gone to schools, and but if every one of us does it, that would be important. I've gone to the churches and have discussions with their congregation. In fact, I'm having one this evening at Portsmouth, at the Methodist Church in Portsmouth. I also have had times when I've gone to businesses, to raise awareness, but we could do much more. There is one of the things that I did was there's this. I'm not sure if you heard of or you knew of the image gap training.
Oh no.
Right. So this training was done for healthcare workers. It was done in October, but there is also this training for community health workers, meaning persons in the community. So this is where I'm going next, to go to the different
Communities.
communities and train key community
Communities
members
and leaders.
and leaders, yes, so that they can be more aware and they can be in the community like the soldiers in the community on the ground, looking out for those signs and
But
symptoms.
just before we go to and open the lines, we'll open the lines shortly so that our callers can participate. You mentioned the age group between 16 and
15 to 29.
15 to 29, which is certainly school age
Yes.
and college sort of age range. What attachments that the schools in particular have to mental health education?
There's none right now.
There's none right now. What would you recommend? Is that part of the policy to?
Well, hopefully that will be
Because
included in it.
if that age, because children, I mean, 15 years, and that is global statistics you're giving. Now, these children, if they are not taught how to deal, to maneuver through the challenges of what they may be going through, and you said easily that could be susceptible to suicide. Like we have been saying, the age of the suicides have been mostly young people. We need to arrest this and get a level of mental education in the schools.
I concur 100%. And it will not be us inventing the wheel here in Dominica. This has already happened elsewhere, right? So
Anywhere in the Caribbean, you know of that have any of these programs related to the schools, associated to the schools?
I think I don't want to. No, I will not say because but
I know because of your position.
Yes,
but then I think I
know
mean generally because we're looking to take care of
I
ourselves.
know there are, and we really need to. That's why I mentioned the last time. I believe it will be important if we include this in our school curriculum.
Yes.
So that again to sensitize the children from young, to educate them. And if from young this is inculcated in their minds, that will contribute to the stigma, to to improving negative stigma that you see, because to them it will be part of of the learning. It will be part of life, and they will be able to help to identify those symptoms much earlier, so they can get help faster.
We're going to jump ship. Another very common mental health or mental illness. You may direct us to find out whether it's an illness, but a narcissism. I mean, we are so plagued with people who believe that they are God, or Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, or the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, that they can do no wrong. And from all sectors of our society, no matter what you tell them, no matter what debate, what information, what discourse, you can't be right. They are always right.
What is? I mean, sometimes I say to myself that, well, narcissistic personality is a personality disorder. And so many people come to me and they say, that person is that, I know, doc, is he's not, that person is narcissistic. That diagnosis, everyone is coming to me and giving it to other persons. But yes, it is a personality disorder where persons believe that they are always right. They cannot go wrong. They know it, and they get very upset if persons don't do things in a particular way. It has to go with my way or not,
Or no way.
or no way. And they tend to. It's very easy for them to look down on other persons and embarrass other persons, But persons with narcissistic personality disorder, they are very fragile beneath.
Beneath.
Yes. In fact, this is like a fast. This is they use this
To cushion.
yes. The word is not coming right now, but to mask. They use it to mask their weaknesses, and but the minute that you're able to tap into that and give them that blow, they go down, it knock them down so much. Yes. And
How common is this in Dominica?
um, persons don't normally come to me
Because there's a level of denial.
and it's a personality disorder. It's your personality, it's inherent. It's you. You have no problem with it. It's part of who you are. So why would I go to somebody if I think this is me? I have no problem. So that's the problem. That's
Because they never have a problem.
that is the difficulty in treating personality disorders. It's who you are. So it's part of you. You don't see any problem with it, and it's one of the hardest conditions to treat. One of the hardest mental illness to treat.
Because denial is one of the fronts. And acute accusation and playing the victim.
Yes.
For instance, whilst they are in denial, they are also the victim. They are always the victim, but then they are always the person that have the possession of this. And by the way, the lines, it's now at 11:34. The lines are now open if in case you want to interact with us. We are in with Dr. Nadia Wallace, the consultant psychiatrist at the acute psychiatric unit. And we are just discussing mental health and the various ills and how we can deal and maneuver and go through how we can manage, that's the important word, some of these disorders. And you can give us a call if in case you have some issues or you want some clarification on what we have been discussing thus far. Post-traumatic stress disorder.
So in Dominica, do we have post-traumatic stress in Dominica?
I'm asking you, you are the specialist.
I'm asking you, do we think we have?
I think we do.
You think we do?
I think we do.
And it's associated with what?
A lot of what we have been, well, some of the areas of what we just went through, the various Maria,
yes,
Erica,
right,
and COVID,
right.
And sometimes you get that direct news. I believe, I'm not sure if I'm on the right track, but you get that news that all of a sudden just just send your mind to a different phrase. It's shocking.
Okay. So you're along the lines. So persons with post-traumatic stress disorder, you can see the trauma in there. Persons who experience the trauma.
Can we take over first call?
Yes.
All right. Good morning to you, Creole Heartbeat. Dr. Nadia Wallace in the building. Good morning.
Okay, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning to you, sir.
Okay, so what is let me just again congratulate you on always initiating some good topics. I think that's a very important topic that you initiated this morning.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so that's Observer,
yes,
as well as Davidson Victor, News Victor, the psychiatric unit.
Hi, Victor.
And I just want to congratulate my consultant, psychiatrist, Dr. Nadia Wallace.
Thank you very much
for doing a very good job thus far in terms of explanation that she's giving and the way in which she's giving it. I have two quick things I want to just bring. One, Wadix asked a question, which is a very important question, that do we have enough education on the signs of depression? we may not have, generally, the public may not have enough of the scientific signs and symptoms. But besides that, notwithstanding that, I still think a lot more could be done for us to help each other. And I think some of the factors that are affecting that is that we have become a very self-centered society, and not just Dominica, but generally in the world. In other words, we don't care for each other as much as we used to or should. So, because a lot of people who are depressed or going through depression or other mental disorders, they demonstrate a lot of signs. They give a lot of signs. But because we are not looking closely and because we are not as caring for each other, because we're so busy in the survival mode, the world right now, most people are in survival mode, meaning that everybody is looking to see how they can survive within that trying times. So we don't pay attention a lot to the signs that people throw out there. Even, for example, social media, if you look at a lot of time people put things on their statuses, on their phone, their status, their WhatsApp status, their email, they put it out there on social media. But a lot of times, because we are so not paying attention to it, because we're so much in survival mode, coupled with the fact that we are not as caring as we used to be before, we missed out on those signs. So it's not just the education. I think a lot more education in terms of the scientific signs needs to be put out there. But notwithstanding that, a lot more could be done if we pay closer attention to our friends. A lot of times we don't call up our friends. We don't hear our friends for a few days. We don't call them up and say, hey, I've not heard you. I've not seen you posting anything on your status for a few days now. What's happening? What's going on? Talk to me. This type of things, checking up on each other. So we need to do a lot more of that, and I think we will get a lot more results. Now, what is I have a challenge for you and for Dr. Nadia Wallace. I heard the Prime Minister and the Education Department is looking very strongly on making adjustment to the curriculum, the education curriculum, meaning that based on what the Prime Minister is saying, he would like to see a lot more free time given so that other things other than just the hard subjects a lot more time can be spent on it. One of the things I think on a Friday where you have that Creole Heartbeat, which is a Friday at 11 o'clock could be a lighter time. The challenge is if we want to really use at least one time to have that Creole Heartbeat and that hour and that topic done, and we could have all students have a phone. They will be in the classroom. They will be able to tune in on their phone between 11 to 12 on that Friday. That also will be a simulcast on DBS Radio, Q95, Vibes Radio, and DBS Radio, all radio stations. And you're also looking for persons who are in the workforce, particularly in the health sector. They will also spend some time tuning in. So rather than they're on their phone looking for other things that are not really important, they can spend that time. So we'll have a national day of looking and understanding and getting information on depression and mental illness. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, caller. I think very pertinent points, Doc.
Yes.
And I agree with all of what our friend Davidson Victor said in terms of the community and family assistance and support. Yes. And then have a national, I think my friend in St. Lucia told me that in terms of getting the information on the African heritage, they're doing something similar every third Thursday in the high schools, where all these high schools can tune up to learn about the African heritage. So it's something we can look into, yes. Dr. Nats. Yes. But we want to post traumatic stress disorder. You are free to call and participate in our special program. Dr. Nadia Wallace is in the building until 12 o'clock. Yes, Doc.
Yes, so as I was saying, a lot of Dominicans, I believe, suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder, and again, that is stemming from the disaster, the natural disaster that we suffered. And post traumatic stress disorder, as the word says, is when you are exposed or you experience or witness a traumatic situation. And not only that, but the feeling that you have is that of a near death experience.
Wow.
And we tend to believe that for us to experience post traumatic stress disorder, we have to witness it personally. We don't have to. You could just hear of it and you start imagining it. And that, for example, after Maria, a lot of Dominicans who were out of Dominica, it affected them that
Yeah.
way because just hearing about it and
And
just
see the
imagining
images.
yes, and that too traumatized them, and they themselves were even experiencing post-traumatic stress disorder. So persons who have post-traumatic stress disorder, whenever they tend to be very hyper vigilant, and especially around the whatever the stressor, the trauma was, maybe in the area, or this is something that reminds them of the trauma, something, somebody, or something it's said. Sometimes it's a song, sometimes it's a person, sometimes it's just a building. Whenever they see anything that reminds them of it, they go back into this.
For the majority of us, whenever it rains heavily.
Or whenever we had a hurricane season
Hurricane,
is
or
here.
hurricane season.
Yes, just
is-
that. It doesn't even have to
yes,
rain,
yes,
but it's
yes.
just hearing the hurricane season is here. And the person start to get, they start to remember, what happened during Maria, and they start, having palpitations. But as we on this, and we are in the hurricane season, and as you just said, a lot of persons, I believe, may be experiencing this because we are in the hurricane season. I just want to let you know out there that, yes, I want you to remember this. To try to work on this anxiety that you experience, just knowing that it's the hurricane season. Remember one, hurricane, the incidents, they occurred, yes. You may have others, but you'll know they will never be like what we have. We'll have other category 5 hurricanes, but they will never be Hurricane Maria. Not because this happened during Hurricane Maria, it's going to happen with every other
Other
category
hurricane.
5 hurricanes. That's one. Another thing that we need to take advantage of is of our experience. We experience those natural disasters. We lived through them. We were there. We know what it was. And you know what? That we should use that as a lesson. We should it taught us, they taught us something. So now we should be better able to prepare. And when I say better able to prepare, we know what happened with the roof because it was a particular way. Guess what? When you do the roof, you do it differently.
Yeah.
You do it in a different manner.
Yeah.
You know when that water tank, it got blown away because it didn't have, when you put it in another area. And so many more examples that we can use. So this was a learning experience for us that we can use to our advantage and prepare much better, so that in the event it happens, the preparation will be there. And that's all we can do. Just prepare. It's like an exam.
Yeah.
The more you study for the exam, is less anxious you feel. So it's the same thing. Using our experience, the negative experience we had, turn it into something positive that can actually help us in the future.
Why is it so difficult for us to accept the fact that we may be in need of some help, some assistance? And you said a while ago that more women, or statistics, give us some statistics, more women are prone or susceptible to mental illness than men.
To depression.
Depression. But to me, more men I'm seeing on the road, more men I'm seeing, in the, let's say, the category of vagrants on the street. More men I can see that are begging, because we are seeing quite a bit of beggars those days. Are any of this related by chance?
So most times it's not as a result of depression.
Not a result of
No,
depression.
no, it's other conditions.
Hopewell cannot give you depression.
Boy,
We'll get into that in a while. We have a I call out the line. Good morning to you for Dr. Nadia Wallace.
Hello, morning, Alex.
Good morning
Morning,
to you, my
Dr.
dear.
Wallace.
Good
How are you all?
morning. Well,
Not
thank
too
Dr.
you.
bad.
Wallace, I'm going to ask a question or say something. I don't know if you can help. We're talking about depression and so on. And you have a lot of things that causes depression. But doctor, what is trying to focus on something here. No, you have oppression all around. I'm talking from top to bottom, okay? I'm talking, for example, I'm going to zero. You're trying to get a job, okay? No, two people, two of you are going for a job. Now they give it to that person instead of the other one because of who you support or which church you go to. Okay, you listen to me, Dr. Wally?
Yes, I am.
Then you have to get a promotion. You're qualified for the promotion. And we're talking truth here, it's not something naive.
Yes, this is reality.
You have to get a promotion. They give it to somebody else because of whatever, who you support, which church you go, if you talk that kind of a thing. No, Dr. Wallace, everybody is not. Some people are stronger than others.
Yeah.
No, how do we or you as a doctor get around that probably to talk to the people or talk to who is responsible, and I'm talking of supervisors, I'm talking of politicians, I'm talking of all those in some sort of authority. Because doctor, when you oppress a person, you can drive them to depression. You can even drive them to go local in our local palace. You can drive them to take their lives. You understand what I'm saying,
Yeah.
doc? So sometimes these people know better. How do we get around that to tell people, please, do not oppress people like that? You have to get, I'm not saying all of us are perfect, listen to me well. Then you have to, to tell them when you do that, you might cause that. So stop it. How do we get around that, doctor, thing? Because we're seeing it in Dominica. We're seeing it. A lot of people suffering through that. People oppressing them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, caller, and may God bless you. And you want to respond?
So I would just say that there are many stressors or many factors that can contribute to depression, and at the workplace stress is one major factor, and we as employers should pay a little more attention to those factors. They need to prioritize person's mental health a bit more, because if you don't as an employer, guess what? You're going to have less productivity, because if your employee suffers from depression, or if they are being oppressed, using the caller's word, even if they're undergoing conditions that are very stressful to them, that can contribute to them becoming depressed, they're not going to be able to produce. And who is going to lose? The business.
But even she also mentioned preferential treatment. For
All that,
instance,
it's
you
one.
are
Yeah.
in line for a promotion, and
Mm-hmm.
based on whatever affiliations you
Mm-hmm.
have with the organization, that you are being oppressed from
Yes.
that
So
particular.
all that contributes to the workplace stress,
Mhm.
and it's one of the factors that can contribute to persons becoming depressed. Not only becoming depressed, but also other conditions. Persons may gravitate to, psychoactive substances as a result,
Yeah, but then
drink
I think
alcohol,
a main concern
etc.
was, how do you reach out to the oppressors?
Education,
Education.
education. That's what we have to do. The more we do it, hopefully persons will, they'll understand, they will hear, and they will understand.
Do you think, as we're talking about oppression, that we are still suffering from the stigma of, or we are still byproducts of the stigma of slavery?
Totally.
Any?
Totally.
I think this is critical, and sometimes we overlook it.
Yes, I believe so, because if we still have that mentality that we should act in a particular way, we should not say certain things or do certain things, that's going to cripple us. That will definitely cripple us. And if we don't think we have the right, we don't have right to express ourselves, we don't have that right to have a voice, and yes, it's a major factor. It's a major factor in contributing to mental illnesses.
I was asking just before the caller called in, the effects of sentimental disturbance. Go well. Let's take a caller. Good morning. Good morning, Creole Heartbeat. Dr. Daniel is in the building. Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Yeah, what is there? That's a very good program you have with the doctor there.
Thank you very much, sir.
And yeah, because mental health basically, some people don't understand it, the biggest problem of disease in the world. It accounts for over 25% of disease in the world. So when we have a situation where people does not respect or understand really that issue of mental health, because over the years, I as a myself as a public health specialist, I find that a lot of facts in them get we have get that situation solved or better managed. So what the programs I looking at in the country is like HFLE at the school. Health and family life education needs to be strengthened at all levels, primary, secondary, and tertiary level. That's why you gotta be instilling values on people, building relationships, all this about doing this thing. And Dominica basically is lacking that. We have instead of introduction of primary health care, mental health at the community level. At the community level, that's the department. We had introduced earlier in the 1990s category of nurse we call community mental health nurse, which just was supposed to be linking with the system where if in the community there, if you have issues of mental health, you will have easy access to services, and then the nurses would now relate to the psychiatric unit and systems put together to manage these things better. Because in our communities, that's where the problem are. A lot of the problems evolve from there, and if you look at a lot of it end up in Uzu, where a lot of the so-called what you call Paru goes up and down, like Luban.
Yeah.
So the primary healthcare program needs to be strengthened. The security of community people and the police themselves have to start doing the job. Because there are so many people that we call them mad, disturbed within the community that are getting attention. And they can go about threatening and harming people. So our security at the community level itself, that is weak. That needs to strengthen. Management of illegal drugs in that country. Drugs, although mentioned it, but that's a serious problem in Dominica. We now open up, we have all the children on the road cutting liquor marijuana and calabash by the roadside and smoking. And it was supposed to be, they were supposed to be smoking in the public. But I just wonder what is the public? Is the public, on a public road, you have to smoke. Man is it in a buy on smoke. You want to be in a dance area with smoke. These are public places. There should not be smoking tolerated in those places. So that again is the issue for I would say enforcement of laws and seeing that people adhere to laws that you have enacted in your parliament. And calling out to patients' rights. Patients to me sometimes get abused at that institution in psychiatric unit. Because I don't think sometimes the care that they're supposed to get there get given. Right? So I need in that legislation there, patients' rights, the caregivers' rights, the guidance, people that taking care of patients, because only leave them on their home, they need to have certain rights too. Okay? Mm-hmm. These three points are just subject for the doctor to ponder them.
Okay, caller. Thank you very much. Some pertinent points here by our caller. And like he said, he's a health specialist. So he brought out, and I guess on the ground. I know the individual is on the ground. So some of what he has been experiencing himself. Any comments, Doc?
So I will support what he mentioned about the community psychiatry.
Yeah.
And I support that fully. That's where we should go. And we have started this in Dominica, and we are well on the way to being better when it comes to community mental health. He spoke of nurses that were trained who are no longer there. That's a fact.
Yeah.
They had same thing that I mentioned, the MH gap training that was done for them, and to better sensitize them and get them more equipped to assess and manage persons with mental illness. That is another training that is going to run again in the community, and this time not only because we have limited resources, nurses included. That's why we're going to include not only the healthcare workers, but also community members, community members, so that they too can be on the ground. They can be the soldiers on the ground, working in the community to help us. Because what it's every one of us need to come on board when mental health is concerned. Every one of us. It's not for one set of person. It's not for the psychiatrists alone. It's not for the nurses alone. It's not for the other doctors. It's for all of us in the community. So I support that 100%. And I think if all of us come on board, if all of us are sensitized, we will see a movement to where we want this to be. He spoke also of the rights of the persons with mental illness. This, as I mentioned,
Patients' rights.
Yes, we need to do this. And again, everything that happens in psychiatry in Dominica is governed by the Mental Health Act. So, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to be revising the act. So hopefully there will be changes in the way things are done.
Can we safely say before the end of the year this process should be completed?
Well, from discussions with the consultant, we're hoping that it should be done. It should happen before the end of the year.
Okay, great. Because this is good news, and I hoping that we can, and once again, Creole Heartbeat is open. You deal with the policy, you deal with the mental
Health
act,
Act, yes.
and we are open. You want to take a final call? Let's take a final call for Dr. Nadia Wallace. Good morning to you, Creole Heartbeat.
One is just a follow-up question to Dr. Wallace.
Yes.
Talk about education and everything, but what I would also like to find out, is there something she can organize, and then to say go around in the private sector, public sector, to speak to people about what can happen to employ, when they're going to that kind of oppression. Is there anything like you go around? I'm just talking
various businesses,
private, public sector, and speak to people so that they realize what they can cause a person, what can happen to a person because of their action. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Colin. We kind of mentioned that earlier, Rospat, to do some more public campaigns. And you are all for this.
And well, I have gone to business places, and I have done this. And
so we should. You think we should do more of this? Is this something that that has been done for free, or something that the business would have to pay, so they would have to come
request that
you come and arrangement be made, that sort of thing.
This
is a thing away from your normal
but it's
job.
Something that can be done, definitely.
Yes, definitely. Just before we leave, Gopal, is that a mental?
Why if I see you're not leaving?
No, because I want to. Let me tell you something. A lot of the guys on the road corners. That's what sent them there.
Oh my God!
And it can be difficult to deal with if you cannot maneuver, and you see, especially those days, the young ladies are getting and looking better and better, and you are just locked into that sentimental disturbance, really blowing your head.
So guess what?
It is.
It is one.
Of course.
Yes, it is one. It's actually called adjustment disorder.
What is it? Gopal, breaking news. So Gopal is called.
It's called adjustment disorder with depressed mood.
Yes.
That's what it's called.
Yes, sentimental adjustment disorder. Dr. Nads, I see time just flew by so quickly. I really want to thank you for taking some time off, and your level of eloquence, your level of knowledge, the way you impart knowledge with us and break down the various aspects. I think this is simply brilliant. I want to once again leave Creole Heartbeat open, especially as a platform for you to do it. We would like to also partner. I know Mr. G would also be happy to do so, and partner with some of our public arrangements, health fairs, mental health seminars, that sort of thing, to continue what you have been doing, because we are not facing this like we should. And as a result, some of our children, we are seeing the effects of it with the recent rise in suicides. Thank you again, Dr. Nance. Exemplary
welcome.
performance here this morning.
Thank you very
Final words are
much.
yours.
Thank you very much, Radix. Again, I just want to say thanks for inviting me here to your program. It's always a pleasure, disseminating information to the public. I think that's the best way. That's how we need to go, because we need to raise awareness. We need to educate persons, and that's where we need to start. And it's coming. The image gap training that I mentioned, this is something that I think this is the way to go, and having the media on board in that image gap training, I think will be brilliant. So I was happy when you mentioned about partnering with us.
Of
So
course, of course, of
yes,
course.
we will
And
definitely be
what
looking for this.
Observer Davidson Victor mentioned,
Yes,
I think it is something that we should push,
yes,
so that
yes.
at one
I love that idea
I love that
actually.
idea
Yes,
because from the time
yes,
my colleague in St. Lucia told me they have a special program where they
yes.
actually teaching the children in St.
Mhm,
Lucia about African heritage.
mhm.
I felt that would be a good avenue we could
To
do.
disseminate information
Yes,
on
yes.
mental health,
Just imagine all the schools at
is
one
at
time is
that tune
listening,
in.
and
Yes,
people at their workplaces
yes,
are tuning into the
yeah,
information.
yes.
I think we
Because
could
as we said earlier, during that time, people are at work
at
and at
work and at
school, and they may
schools
not get the
get the
information.
information.
So this is
So
brilliant.
this was another Creole Heartbeat program, Dr. Nadia Wallace,
Thank you
and
very
she
much.
really broke down the information for us. And we hope that this particular program was educational and really touched the hearts of many of us out there. And in case you're contemplating or having some effects of depression or any of the symptoms that we mentioned, you could contact Dr. Nadia Wallace. And what's your number, doctor? You're privileged to give it live.
The number is 275
Mm-hmm.
4717. That's the number to
4717.
the unit.
Yes, I know
Yes.
you can't give your private number
Yes.
because your beauty might might attract so much attention. But thank you, Dominica, another Creole Heartbeat program.
Thank
The
you
news
very much.
major comes up next on the big station Q95 FM. One was engaging and educational. Part two will be empowering and inspiring. Dr. Nadia Wallace, consultant psychiatrist at the acute psychiatric unit, returns to the habit this Friday, June 20 from 11 a.m. on the big station Q95.